India-based solution providers made it Magic Quadrant. We have Industry Observer. We have Rahul from, again, Gridspertise, which is a global solution provider. So, sir, I would like to invite you to share your opening remarks and, your thoughts, what comes in your mind when we talk about all these 250 million smart meters. Where are we at this stage? And what is your expectation from this discussion today, sir?
Apologies, first of all, for joining the session late. And I'm thankful and grateful to my friend from Odisha and also ISGF and Government of India for having invited me over and to be the chair of this session. Yes, it is a very aspirational target to have smart metering done for about 50 billion consumers across the country. It's not the first time that we are looking at the smart metering objective. It has been earlier also in RAPD, RP, and to some extent in IPDS also that has been attempted. So much so that NSGM has tried doing some pilots in 14 different utilities, and it has not gone beyond that. When we talk about metering, we assume that there is some theft which is going on, which is like AT&C losses. So some technical part of it is taken care of by improving the technology, but the theft part or the commercial losses that are to be taken care of will be essentially addressed by the smart metering solution. It's not that the smart metering solution is only going to take care of the theft, but it will also generate so much of a data that would help us in doing the TOD application of the tariffs. It will also give us the information as to where the consumers are, what kind of losses are being made. But ultimately, if you talk about all of this, it is coming at some cost. And that cost has to be borne by the consumer or the distribution companies. So unless we have a strategy which clearly is going to address, one, the requirement that, yes, it goes to the targeted consumers. It ensures that it gives us all the opportunities to do all kind of analytics, to identify the theft, to take care of day tariff, to take care of situations whereby we are able to minimize the losses to the distribution companies. But if you see, the cost of a smart metering is much higher than a normal meter. And that has to be paid for by somebody, and that is the distribution company. So then the two things come in. One is that still, despite having a interoperability of the meters, we have yet not been able to address the interoperability of the communication systems. And even the code that has been given for the manufacturing IS 16444, it does not take care of all the parameters which needs to be standardized. So what happens? You tender it out, you have a vendor who provides you with a smart metering solution, but then you are always held with them. Unless you have structured your program in such a way whereby the MDM is controlled by you, because the feed that is going to come from a AMISP vendor through HES, if it is not standardized at the receiving end at the MDM, and everybody brings in its own HES and own MDM, then chances are that you either continue to be with them for any new consumer that comes in, or you continue to be dependent upon them for the future improvements in the technology. The second part, which is essential, which is communication technologies, we have RF technology, which is again proprietary. You have PLC, which has problems because we are not able to maintain our systems so well. So what we are left with is a GPRS with the 2G or 3G communication technologies. And there also, we have an issue that there are experiments earlier, and because of the less reliability of it, we have not been able to succeed. So the first point that I want to make is when we are looking at a target of 50 billion consumer meters, which are smart in nature, which will give us huge amount of data and will help us plan our grid properly, it also throws up a challenge as to how do we ensure that the distribution companies are not taken for a ride by ensuring a system, by having an interoperability provided for. So we have to create solutions for that. And Madhya Pradesh, I will not right now talk about it. We have tried addressing that. And the second thing that is important is, if the smart meter is going to be established, which consumer are you going to first target to? Is it those areas where we are having losses up to 80% or 70%? Or is it those areas which are less than 15% of our losses? Because ultimately, a normal meter will cost you about 1,500 to 2,000 rupees, while a smart meter will cost you about 8 to 10,000 rupees. Now, this gap of about 8,000 rupees, which turns out to be about 80 to 100 rupees per month per meter, has to be paid by the distribution company. And if the targeting is not proper, the returns from this, in terms of the enhanced revenue, is not going to be coming to the distribution company. That would be an additional burden to the distribution company, who are itself bleeding. So we again would have to be very, very specific as to where we are going to put our first smart meter. And the third important thing is, there will be a lot of backlash which might start coming in from those areas which are right now into a theft-prone mode. So if we are not planning our smart metering solutions in a way whereby the revenue is going to come so as to sustain that smart metering thing, it would be a question. So these are the 3 points that I wanted to give it to the esteemed panel, that when they are going to make their presentation or they are speaking about it, they have to listen to. And I have been one person, I don't know whether people agree in this hall with me or not. My belief is, and it can be summarized in one single line, that no solution is a good solution unless it takes care of the interest of the distribution company. If we are providing solutions without looking into the interest of distribution companies, probably we are not reaching to a situation where the adoption is going to be very, very smooth. So one has to take care of the interests of the distribution company. We have to make sure that they become viable, and until they become viable, any new introduction of a technology would be a challenge, and it might be halfway through, but it can't be ever 100% through. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for setting the stage, setting the context so very well. You know, as you said, any solution that needs to be rolled out at scale, population scale, which, you know, in India, only China does it, it will become bigger than India. You know, otherwise we'll always remain the biggest. The typical challenge with any scale solution that we have is standardization and interoperability. And, you know, what you said is, you know, it goes, in my head, it goes hand in hand, monetization and prioritization. You know, how do we ensure that it's all cost? So thanks so much for setting the stage, and I would, you know, just request all my speakers to make sure that address these points, deliberate these points as we proceed next 1 hour, 15 minutes. With this, Rahul, I'll invite you to do the thematic presentation to, again, you know, talk about what's our perspective on this.
All sections which I have created for the session, which is, you should first understand, would like to make you aware why grid expertise or NREL is eligible to talk about smart metering and what their exposure is in this particular field. Then what is from our learnings and challenges internationally, what we have seen, and what would be the best approach for India. Then there are few challenges and learning which I want to highlight basically on the customer engagement part, on what will be done for the existing meter, how we are going to manage it, and how we are doing it in other countries, and the capacity building part, which is the most important as per my personal opinion. And then a single slide on a sum up. So just to give you a brief about NREL Group. NREL Group is present in 32 countries. I will be restricting data which are relevant to AMISP. They are operating 13 distribution companies across 8 countries, mostly concentrated in Europe and Latin America. So the learnings we have got from Latin America, from Argentina, from Brazil, from Peru, that are more relevant to us than for the Indian context than what we have got for our European counterpart.
Can you come close to the mic?
Yeah, sure. And we ourselves design the smart meters, and we have produced 85 million smart meters, out of which 55 millions are deployed in our own distribution companies, and we are operating and managing it internally. And all this is being a distribution company, due to our domain knowledge, we were able to do whatever successfully we have been able to implement. So just to give you a flavor where we are present, and as Gridspertise, if you can see, we have got our head office in Italy, and we have recently Gridspertise has been created about a year back, and two nations have got their offices, which is US, and recently on 9th of November, we have got our India entity, legal entity created. So Gridspertise has got 3 offices across the globe. Just to give you a flavor, the NL Group presence in India, we are present in India since 2015. We have got NL Green Power, which is in Bangalore and Gurgaon. They are managing and under construction assets of around 1 gigawatt. We have got NL Grids team and the Gridspertise team co-located with NL Green Power Gurgaon office. Then we also have got NLX and NLX Way. They are involved into the EV and the infrastructure creation for that. So people might have been knowing about NL, so that's why I just wanted to make that dots connected to the Gridspertise. So Gridspertise has been recently, about a year back, carved out from the NL Group, and the aim is to develop and offer cutting-edge sustainable technological solution to DISCOMs globally. And Gridspertise has consolidated NL Grid's domain knowledge, which according to me is the most important when we are talking about utilities, because domain knowledge plays its own role. It inherits the technical know-how. All the R&D center, labs and IPR have been transferred from NL to Gridspertise. Gridspertise is now leveraging on the inherent competencies and assisting globally, DISCOMs globally to go digital. So basically, if you see, we can bucket our solutions into 3 segments. One is meter, under which the AMI solutions will fall. And the second, the central part is the network solutions related to bringing efficiency into the network. And the third part is the field force automation. So these 3, basically these 3 we can segments we are offering our solutions and dedicated for the distribution utilities. As she was saying about the international exposure, so since 2001, NL and Gridspertise have been involved in the smart meter. In Italy in 2001, the first rollout started. So it is around more than 2 decades of experience with the group for managing, operating, installing, deploying of the smart meters. In 2008, we started with Romania and Spain. Then 2017, just to tell you, the warranty for a smart meter or the life of the smart meter, there are 15 years. So in 2017, if you see, the second rollout has started for Italy. So after that, the Latin American countries, we are starting deploying through first doing the pilots and then deployment have started. If you see the last segment, so we are developing a meter for India, which is expected by the first quarter of 23. And this would be third generation and then on a hybrid communication. So it would be BIS certified as per the Indian compliance requirement. According to me, what I personally believe is that this is one of the largest smart meter deployment which India is planning for. And this is not an activity which happens every year or say every second year. It is something which you see in few decades. This kind of a rollout is planned for, and people get together and execute it. And this is going to touch every household in India. So we have to be very careful. It has to be customer centric. the way the customer and the utility are currently interacting or communicating with each other, it is going to be totally transformed after the induction of a smart meter. And there are potentials to add few more services. There are many like AML, data analytics, and all those things. For all those things, you first need data. So smart meter is the thing which will provide you the data, required data. So for the success, it calls for a proper planning and participation, wholehearted participation from all the participants. So technology adoption is going to be the backbone of DISCOM's revival and its future operations. There is no second thought about it. Now, if you go for the deployment strategy, so the first thing is that everybody who is involved in the project should see the big picture. What is the ultimate goal? And they should own the project. And it's just doing the project because it has been given to me, as I said in the last slide about that this kind of project doesn't happen every day. It's kind of some professionals might be encountering it for the first time and for the last time in their professional life. So we should recognize that that is the potential of this particular kind of project. That's the kind of transformation it is going to bring. So people have to see the big picture. They have to own the project. Then best managerial talent are required because there are complexities which are there and that needs to be managed to be successful. Then adopting to a new technology basically is not a solution unless and until you revisit your existing processes. So existing processes, if required, they have to, business process reengineering has to be taken place. Because with the old process and new technology result, it is going to be doomed. The pilots, if required, because every DISCOM has got their own different working conditions, they have to have pilots to justify to their use cases, to customize the solutions as per their use cases. And combining all these, the change management is the key. Support has to be there from government, from regulator. DISCOMs have to have a core team and they should be ensured smooth transition. There has to be a dynamic PMO involving not even DISCOM, SI partners, if they want some consumer representative, and we can plan for it. Then we have to bring out, the third part is the participation part, where you have to bring out the best competencies from each partner for this project. And as there will be multiple partners, the planning and the workforce design is the important for the success of the projects. For DISCOMs, for the inclusiveness, they have to, as I already mentioned, they have to involve all the key stakeholders and take it forward, taking everybody into consensus. On the left-hand side, there are 3 blocks which talk about consumer engagement, meter, management of existing meters, and the capacity building, which I will be taking in the further slides. So when you talk about challenges, first I will be talking about consumer engagement. So in our deployments worldwide, mostly this is the template which we have used. In the phase 1, which is we termed that as preparatory phase, before the installation happens, the information has to flow to the consumer. You have to educate through public media, public participation, the education has to go. Then you have to provide with certain informations and seek their feedback also, so that you are able to get the real feel of the field. The process should be explained to the end consumer. The clarity should be given to the all key stakeholders why this particular exercise is being undertaken. The communication before the initiation gives a feel of the ground reality and also provides with a sufficient time to the DISCOM to fine-tune their approach. In the second phase, when the installation is going to happen, the key is the installer or the technician who is going to there to install it. So they have to be trained how to do it, what to communicate, how to deal with the clients, through the customers. They are going to face the issues and they have to approach it. So we have to sensitize them and have to train them. You can't just let them go in with a job card, go and install it, replace the existing meter. Then what we used to do is a written instruction for operating a smart network, because in Europe and other places there are other features also due to retail concept, lines being separate than the wire. So the retailers are also there, the few more features are there. So instruction card is being given at the time of installation to the consumers. Copy of the report is also handed over to them. And the instruction sheet also has any feedback or any complaint or any concern they want to raise. The possible options, avenues are being detailed there. In the last, which is post-installation, there is an opportunity for the customer to approach with their feedback, with their concerns. As said earlier during the instruction sheet, which carries all the details, this becomes important because you can analyze those feedbacks and then you can work upon, you can redefine, fine-tune your approach going forward. So this communication with the consumers has given a positive result for the deployments. So these are just a sample pictures which you can see. Now
sorry, Rahul, in the interest of time.
Yeah, I will take 3 minutes. Yeah. So for the management of existing meters, just to keep the audience aware, 85% of the global warming potential is through the PCBs which the smart meters carry. And 10% is through the polycarbonate body which you see. So what we have started doing is, we have started using the polycarbonate for our new meters. That has already started, and around what we have targeted in 2026 is that 90% of the production which will happen for the next generation smart meter will be through the body, the polycarbonate body will be having the raw material from the, not the virgin material, the raw material which comes from the old meters. On the PCB or the how to get value or how to be more climate protective. So what Gridspertise is doing for the sustainable development, they are finding ways to recover the precious metal and the rare earth elements from the PCB components. The end goal is to minimize the landfills and to decrease the CO2 emissions, increase the EK waste value, and certain pilots with certain partners are already on way. In one more way, we have recently launched a e-challenge where the innovators, the creators, inventors were thrown a challenge to redesign the smart meter, start from the scratch, from material to design and shape, size, whatever they want. So many inputs have come, which the team is working on to find the inputs to take it to a concrete level. The third part and the last, the capacity building part, this is the most important. There are the two aspects come into play. The first is that the people who are already there, you have to train them, and you also will be needing new people. You have to build that process also. So on the training part, the second and the third block I will emphasize. We emphasize on the Gridspertise totally emphasize on the health and the safety part, and without that no training is complete. And specifically for each kind of meters, the installation practice or you can try trials are given at the workshop or say at the training center. For the capacity building part, the training and the Gridspertise has been having various programs like Energy for Growth, wherein the technicians, the young technicians from the parallels to the ITI in India are for the vocational training, and all those parts are taken and they are inducted into the team. So that is it is a repetitive process which happens regularly to ensure that there is no lack of competent people who are going to operate the system in the future. So I will skip this slide so that everybody is now lying. So grid expertise is there for all the solutions which you need for the DISCOMs, and we can participate with anybody on management of existing smart meter and capacity building. We are open for any kind of a collaboration partnership on this too, where I think it will be across the sector that can be used. Thank you.
Thanks, Rahul, for condensing. Thanks, Rahul, for condensing 2 decades of NL's experience around change management and field governance issues. I'm sorry, I had to cut you short. The session is to all the speakers, the session is already running more than 1 hour late. So, let's try not to add to the delay that we already have, because that eats up into our dinner and cultural program time. With that, Mr. Sridhar, I'll invite you to talk about, as a DISCOM, what's been your experience in implementation, and if you can please finish this in about 10 minutes time, that would be very helpful.
Can you please organize? Somebody has to come and help you out.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sridhar Venkat, Senior Vice President, Network Operations at BSES team. See, our agenda is to go for 5 million smart meters in 3 years time frame. We already tendered, and tender is in the final technical evaluation phase. Let me quickly run through the process. I represent BSES Rajdhani Power Limited. Here we illuminate the iconic landmarks of Delhi, and it is 50% of Delhi is with us. Both BSES Rajdhani and Yamuna, we have seen close to 900 square kilometer area. We have around 45 lakh consumers, and last year we touched around 4,000 megawatt of peak demand. And 18C loss are at 7.67 and 7.27 level. Peak demand has gone from the unbundling days 2002 to today 2022, 2.5 times. We have been involving all various technologies in our businesses for last two decades of our presence at Delhi. You can see various technological rollout. I'm skipping it, but just to see that currently we are in the process of AMI rollout and e-mobility and predictive maintenance, smart meter lab, data lake, etc. So the journey from 2002 for manual meter reading to CMR IPDS to GSM technology to CDM technology to GPRS technology to NBIO technology, the journey is continuing. As per the mandate by MOP, we are also urban space, 15% AT&C laws and above areas where smart prepaid meters installed for government offices and industrial commercial customers by 31st December 2023. We are on target. Similarly, in the DT smart metering by 31st March 23. Smart meters for balanced data DT by December 23, and the feeder VMR by 31st December 2022, and all the feeders shall be made communicable under NF National Feeder Monitoring System by 30th December, and by prepaid mode by 31st March 25. We are working on these lines, and we are also following the CN norms. If you look at the EMI, for the utilities, the advantage it offers is loss reduction, because wherever the losses are high, even in urban space, we have Najafgarh, Jafarpur, Mundkad, and Tar Garden, and New Friends Colony in Delhi in our area and BSES. Still, we have loss levels, the tune of 20% and 15%, etc. So there also we are trying to put smart meter so that we reduce the loss levels and energy account proper. Shortening of cash-to-cash cycle, estimated bills and billing disputes, cost automation, quicker outage restorations, and these are all benefits everybody knows, and skipping this. And the customer benefits also, where slab crossover prediction is possible, and flexibility of billing mode and improved customer satisfaction, etc. And India, we have already seen 35 lakh smart meters already in place. So the learnings of the 35 lakh meters, whether it is various interoperability we talked about, and the standards of metering standards we are aware, and I'm skipping it. See, Sanjay talked about need of interoperability. Yeah, it's a challenge because every manufacturer is selling his own product, but we have to have integrated solutions for the DISCOM, because meter, protocol or mediation device or communication device have to have an integrated approach in doing things, because ultimately end of the day we are serving customer, and customer needs to be taken care, and we cannot make a customer to pay for whatever mistakes we do in the technological selection, etc. So this area also we are very closely learning from the various 35 lakhs consumer where the meters have been installed across the country. If you look at the business value realization or network optimization or demand curve management or future of energy and the safety of the people who are there, and this is going to be the very interesting one, and we need to take it to the next level. See, whether it's business value, T&D loss reduction, or yearly revenue realization, near real-time theft or TAP reduction, and improved energy auditing and consumer engagement in energy services, and balancing of the load, outage management and reactive energy monitoring and optimization, asset optimization, and yearly failure detection. This all can happen through a proper meter and connected to the system. And the demand response and demand side management and load management and predictive load forecasting. And EV renewables and upcoming technology are keep on happening. We are going for a green this thing with ESG coming in a big way, BRSR and other aspects which are also we are talking about as a DISCOM. We want to also become green DISCOM. Our portfolio we want to have 50% of power purchases through renewable power. So as we are trying to move towards future of energy needs of the country to become responsible organization, we have to take this mission to take it next level. Similarly, on the various aspect, we all know remote metering to prepayment to theft analytics to compliance, even DSM planning and load forecasting, AML, blockchain, etc. We need to have this smart meter. We are, as I said, we have already gone for a 50 lakh. We have consumer of 30 lakhs for BSES Rajdhani, 20 lakhs for Yamuna power, and we have 50 lakhs we have gone for tender, wherein we have having all the three, where cellular as well as RF and PLC. The component will be, cellular will be predominantly high, because out of 50 lakhs we will be going for 45 lakhs around cellular, and around 4 lakh for RF and 1 lakh for PLC. And because after 5 lakh of implementation, we will see whether which technology we have to go for, because we will first evaluate the first priority one of 5 lakh meter, which is initially being planned. With this connectivity as communication protocol, where Sanjay was mentioned, yeah, it's a challenge which we also face through our implementation in KCC and key consumer, and also domestic and federal monitoring, smart meter implementation, HES and meter manufacturer and the HES, as well as the communication protocol, the connectivity, the issues and challenges what we face in the field was tremendous, and we have all those problems what we have undergone and faced during the practical implementations, and we have the Tata's experience in Delhi, so we are amalgamating all that experience and trying to make a solution which is going to be good for implementation and good for use for everyone. And advanced analytics, value-added services, SMARC, we are building up a SMARC center, a smart meter operation control center, and where in which it will take control on MDM as well as consumer mobile application as well as mobile field users data, and both RF, EDEND and network management, etc. And also to talk about the existing SAP and SCADA, OMS and e-vehicle space or battery storage or JS, and DSM, DR, PQM, PLM and grid analytics and load forecasting, etc., where we can integrate with our MDM and we take it to the SMOC and take it to the next level. So our RFE document which we tendered out and already is under final technical evaluation phase. Smart meter supply is part 1, is CAPEX intensive meters. And AMI solutions, the software and other connectivity part has been taken as a second this thing, and we have 5 component where first is supply and another is services. In services also we have application data and integration, and also we have post implementation and post implementation SLA support for taking it to total 10 years cycle we have taken, because end to end we also made it whether to go for a CAPEX or OPEX or TOTEX or or a model in which can be DISCOM can be successful with that. Also, we are evaluating. We have allowed the vendors to tell what model they want to operate. So this kind of new thought process we have made it in our RFP. Smart meter specs and the quality meter, communication devices, hybrid with RF, cellular and PLC and RF, which I talked about. AMI for prepaid module analytics, consumer applications, and SMOC and DBM based. SMOC is going to be the fulcrum of entire operations. And BI, DA layer, distribution automation layer, because we are in Delhi, we are on the DMS, we are already 490 RMUs are already connected, 2,200 RMUs already, yes ma'am. Out of 2,200, we have taken 20% of 10,000 transformers. We have 490 already installed, and we are next 5 years timeline. We are trying to put our DMS in place. Also, SSI module for our remaining 8,000 transformers, so that every distribution DMS also in full way we want to go. So DMS, AMI, it will all give advantage to the people in the long run. So as a DISCOM, we are getting ready for the future challenges with the consumer engagement and TOD tariff, demand side response management, promoting renewable energy sources and microgrid with the AMI. We did one microgrid project which is installed at Shivalik, and we find that very useful. And we also did around 7 DT where we installed a battery storage system, and also where we find advantage of peak saving and demand side aspects. Load forecasting, network augmentation, peak load management, the challenges which, because already in Delhi is already 250 buses are on EV are there, and almost 600 buses are going to come next year. The EV space is growing vertically, and also buildings are going vertical now. So and the demand is increasing at 8%, and we have to be ready for those loads. So summing up, yes, smart metering programs have challenges, but challenges also brings opportunities. And we as a country, if we take the challenges and put it into people, process, technology, and the final results, and if we do an integrated way, addressing communication and the cloud, where cybersecurity aspects or interoperability aspect, which we talked about, hardware and system and software integration, and the processes, commercials, where prepaid aspects, data storage for massive data, and another challenge which is going to be chip shortage. We are already facing in our industry, where with Taiwan and China, and as also the war, which has all affected this entire supply chain, and where we are already facing a lot of problem in our relays also. So I think hopefully this will settle down. We see some green and red thoughts are going to an end, because we are seeing that people are coming with electronic industry revival, and our own industry semiconductor manufacturing is all going to come up. So where this has to happen, because we have to be self-sufficient to make things to take care of challenges. In fact, I feel that manufacturing will go for a big change with this 250 lakh meters which are going to be there in the country, because if you can bring the cost to 500 rupees smart meter, and it can happen in the future, because from 4,000 to 3,000 to 2,000, it can bring to 500. But big players, they come and make it 500 rupees of smart meter piece, and in India can make it happen, because India we have given 15 rupees postcard communication when communication revolution had happened. Reliance Communication has done that. We all had communication devices, that handheld devices we had. So those changes can happen in the country. We believe that as we move ahead, these changes will keep on happening. And we also regulatory and customer and political, those things which are challenges which we also have to handle it and make things happen. And with the challenges are there, but as I said, we have to see collectively as a ecosystem, whether it is, because distribution, I say pestle, political, environmental, social, technological, economics, and legal. All the 6 framework has to be together to make the things happen, including vendor, suppliers, or service providers. If we integrated approach we follow, as a country, we can certainly come out with this challenges, and we can meet this 250 million targets, whatever Government of India has said, can be a reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for sharing the plans that you have for rolling out of smart metering. And I'm glad to see that also looking at future solutions and not just present challenges that are there. With that, I'll start off the panel discussions with people, all the key members on my left-hand side have been waiting patiently. What I'll also try and do is, if time permits, and therefore I'll request everyone that, when we do the questions, try and limit your answers to 3 to 4 minutes. Ideally, I would like to take a few audience questions as well towards the end. Yeah, so, some of you may want to start preparing your own questions for the panel and for the members that we have on the dais. Nilesh, I'll start with you. Tata Power has already done 500,000 meter implementation on the ground, and you have done it across metros, Odisha. So it's a variety of region and implementation that you have done on smart metering. So can you share with us your actual on-ground implementation, what challenges and how has this implementation gone for you so far?
Yeah, thank you, Dipti. Tata Power has rather tried all the technologies. We started with Delhi, then we did it in Mumbai, and now we are rolling out in Odisha, and 500,000 meter we have already implemented. We have tried communication technologies like RF, 4G communication, and even we are doing a pilot of PLC in Mumbai. So as most of the factors are covered in the presentation, the hygiene factors initially every utility generally face, like the customer engagement and, the capacity building and all. So obviously these are the issues every utility will face. But the issues are, the major challenge so far as the smart meter rollout is, concerns our huge dependability on communications. In RF also and in 4G also, we have seen in city like Mumbai, we see that in many areas, we are not getting the signals. And if you are not getting enough signal, the whole purpose of, getting smart meter installed, we are convincing customer, we are convincing regulators that these are the benefits of the smart meters. And, at many locations, in Mumbai, we have 1 lakh meters installed, and as much as 5,000, 6,000 meters, we are not getting communicated because of the low signal. As much, so these are the issues, our dependability on communication. Secondly, it is expected that we are working in, the power sector for last 20 years, and the price trajectory of electronic meter from 2,000 to now 500, 600 rupees, we are getting a single phase electronic meter. The same trajectory was expected 2 years back in smart meter, but the prices of smart meters are not coming out that way. And a time being problem has indicated, the chip shortages. Because of the chip shortages, the way aggressively all utilities are going ahead with the installation of the meters, but the meter availability is not ensured. Many meter companies not in position. Many meter companies who wanted to manufacture the smart meter, the cycle time is also very high, getting, the BIS certification. And so this is also one of the challenge that many options are not available as much. Size of the meter is another problem, the footprint, because earlier we have electronic meters and now electronics meters are getting replaced with smart meter. And the size of the smart meter is 20 to 30% higher. So how to optimize? And in a city like Mumbai, you will not get any space. Rather, you are putting your meters in the basement. So how we are optimizing the footprint of the size of the smart meter, so is also another challenge. Secondly, what is the size of the IT infrastructure? Right now, we are talking about, the load forecasting, right? We are doing load forecasting, we are getting data every 4 hours. But if we want really a 15 minutes data for every meter for accurate load forecasting, you need to have a hardware capacity. So this is another challenge, and unified HES, in Mumbai we are having 2-3 types of the communication. We have few RF meters, we have few, 4G meters. So there is no unified HES solution, it's still available. So this is another challenge, if unified HES will be given, you can have multiple, the communication technologies you can use and you can integrate, as unified MDMS is there, that is also something required. So these are the few challenges we face, but obviously we have picked up a pace and we are moving ahead with very aggressively. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. I think, the IT infra is the easier problem to solve. I think the kind of solutions that we are looking at, and I think smart metering is one of the solutions that is kind of born in cloud by default. So I think that's an easier problem to solve. But, your point on the availability of the meters and the size of the meter, Probably, the entire approval cycles are probably you would want to comment towards, and is there something that can be done to expedite it from the regulator aspect? And I'm sure there are few meter manufacturers here, they'll probably go back to drawing board and see, and it's a practical challenge. You have to go and install it in the existing setup, right? It may not allow you to have extra 20 to 30% space. So yeah, so I'm sure people are making note of that. Communication, unfortunately, we don't have any representative from communication network, but yeah, we do keep hearing every discussion that we have. I think communication, interoperability and availability turns out to be the biggest question. And I'm hoping that, in next couple of years, at least we are able to sort that out.
So, and one more important point, the initial cost of the meter is high, but, we are shelling out around 25 rupees a meter per month. So, huge OPEX, so far as the smart meter is concerned. So, assuming in a utility with, say, 10 lakh or 20 lakh, the meters, you will be shelling crores of rupees. So, this is another challenge, So, the communication dependability and, the cost of communication is the major challenge.
Sure. Praveen, I'll move to you. Given QCLUS has been doing international implementation and India implementation, do you see any differences, any challenges that are unique to India, or do you hear of these issues across the globe? What's been your experience so far in part of this entire smart metering rollout so far?
So we spoke to E.ON, which is a fairly large utility in Europe, which has implemented smart metering. And incidentally, they happen to be our investors as well. And when they implemented this smart metering, they said they had 900 processes on board, and 870 processes were impacted by implementation of smart metering. So that's the level of impact that one rollout plan can have on the utility. And some of the success factors, and this is generally echoed by most utilities there, that if you have to be successful with your smart metering rollout, you have to be adaptable to these changes which the smart metering brings in. Other points that are echoed by most utilities as being the prime success factors are, it's not the best meter or the right communication technology or the perfect solution, software solution or tool that you deploy. It's the team around it who works jointly to make sure the end-to-end implementation is done successfully, leads to a successful project closure. Another point that most utilities who have been successful have realized that this is not a once-for-all implementation project, that these are the use cases and this is going to stop here. So the solutions that are deployed have to be flexible to accommodate all the future needs that are going to evolve. The maturity level will bring in more expectations. There will be more use cases which will come out, and your solution has to be ready to be able to implement those solutions. We also find in most cases the SLAs are done just for the heck that you want your suppliers to perform and you want to show that there are some results. But most SLAs actually don't lead to the right kind of results unless the SLAs are linked to some use cases or a benefit for the utility. Just to give you an example, there was a case where they decided the call by having 30-minute interval data, the call center takes a larger time to respond to service calls. So they said, let's implement 15-minute data. Once they implemented that, they found out, 15 minutes is also too long. You can't expect a customer to hold on for 15 minutes. So then they said, okay, let's go move forward and do an on-demand read when a call comes in. So when this solution was presented to the call center executives, they said, but we don't have to respond to the clients online. We just take in the complaint and we said, we will get back to you the next day with the data and through an email or a call. So if these use cases are defined by the users and not by somebody, we say smart metering is an IT or an OT solution, and who takes the ownership to design the solution? It's the users, if they are involved, they are the ones who know what these processes are and how do they result into actual benefits. So maybe including the users on the ground in framing these specifications does make a difference. And lastly, we've seen that these are too complex solutions. By having too much of a specification, you actually kill the whole project. We look at even standardization. We have DLMS standards, but the integration is not so simple as it's a plug and play. There's still an involvement to integrate meters because the implementation is done differently inside the meters. Same with security solution. We say we cannot have the most sophisticated solution here because next day you will find somebody who is able to hack it. So you need to have processes in your organization which then mitigate those risks and minimize the damage that a hack or a cyber attack could have on your processes. So it's not always drilling down on the specs, making it more complex, making it more sophisticated. Just to cite another example, most of the transmission system operators use a very complex forecasting algorithm to do a next day forecast. And these are done by all European transmission operators, and this data is publicly available. But when the pandemic came in, the complete consumer behavior changed, and all these models which were designed to work in those environments suddenly fell flat. So it's necessary to optimize sometimes, but have the right kind of solutions which may not be perfect or as sophisticated or takes into account weather and all those parameters, but is still able to deliver the results that is meaningful for the utility.
Thanks for sharing that, and I think what you're saying also resonates with what Rahul talked about earlier, that when you're going for such large-scale implementation, the process re-engineering, the change management aspect on ground is very, very important. And my two other key takeaways from what you said is, working backwards from what's the problem that you're trying to solve, working backwards from the customer need or the use case that you have, and then not try to retrofit a solution, but work backwards from that. And so that's another key takeaway. And you talk about agility, right? That design a solution in such a way that the models that work pre-COVID may not work during COVID. So what's your flexibility and agility that you have in the system? Thanks for sharing those. Manjeet, I'll come to you. It must have been an interesting journey for you. Fluent Grid has been part of the utility sector in country for a very long time, and smart metering from the day it started, you have been part of the journey there. So when you look back, what's been your learning? How, as a solution provider, India-based solution provider, how have you matured, and how are you getting ready to move forward?
Sure. Thanks, Dipti. See, we at Fluent Grid are 2 decades into the digital transformation of utilities, right from the journey of CIS, and participating in all major programs like RAP, DRP, and IPDSS, and into the early days of our EMI. I think all the forum have covered a lot of points which are very common, so I will not repeat or try to answer. I'll try to bring in some points which probably might be of interest of everyone, and which will add to the existing points. One of the key point is that I have heard is a unified head-end system. See, there is a lot of commonality and singularity and homogeneity from the software point of view. So we have to find out what are the issues that are on the field. Are they related to the applications, the business applications, or the field assets, meters, and the respected components to that? So if we have an HES attached to a meter, then we get binded towards that meter. So the need is of a universal head-end system, unified head-end system. Like we also are a major implementer of a unified head-end system, and that is from a fact that we are in 15 plus utilities in India itself, where we are giving our MDM solution along with our unified head-end system. The reason of that is it has to be protocol agnostic and flexible enough to interact and adopt to the upcoming standards and the guidelines. That is one part of it. Second, what is the true benefit of AMI that we are looking at? Is it only for AT&C? That we have been doing in RAP, DRP, and IPDSS systems. So we were able to bring down the losses, most of the DISCOMs below to 10%. I think single digits also I saw in the BSES slide as well. So what is the true benefit? True benefit of getting this petabytes of data generated into our systems. What is the use case that we are looking for? So early adoption of the downstream applications and early adoption of cloud, which is a very essential activity. That will lead to a true benefit for a long-term benefit. So taking each utility is at a different stage of evolution, transformation. So we have hyperscalers like AWS, which can really take you the journey right from even a small footprint of a meter to millions of meters. So the technology enablers are available. That's the point which I was trying to make deeply, that technology from the software solutions point of view is not a challenge. So at any given moment of time, there will be a lot of meter makes on the field. Some would be, if you take example of ESL, 2017 we saw only around 40 lakhs, I may be wrong on the number, around 40 lakh meters on this. A lot of meter makes failed. They were not able to replenish their parts. So we, when we are executing such a large program, I think we should have a very India-specific standard and guidelines, like I will agree to what Praveen just mentioned. We need to push our own standards so that meters are forced to agree to a common head-end specification, one. Second, the MDMS. Now the MDMS has to not only cater to the current need of, it is not a singular application, that means you are pulling data from field and transforming it and passing it on. It has to be a larger role. Otherwise, we'll be making pockets of data warehouses, data lakes at every stage. You will have a data lake again, probably at the cloud level, and again at further forecasting level and further DERM programs. So MDMS is a very critical part of it, and the use cases that will evolve around it have to be adopted, and the guidelines have to be kept open. SMOCs, I think it is not that it's a more of a wish list. I think it has become a mandate. So we need to move towards SMOC along with the same guidelines, so that it gives you an overall landscape 360-degree view of the entire utility applications and the processes that are in field. So right now we are in isolation. A consumer who is raising a complaint at a call center may not get any information, or if it is due to any faulty meter. The AMI system or the meter system may not get any impact to that. So that unification and 360-degree view has to be brought in. So I believe SMOCs also have to be really seriously thought through, along with the rollouts of that will happen. Just one more point I'd like to make, probably we can come back again on that. One is, I have written down, is that we need to have a single source of truth. From all consumer details, the meters, the seals, the NIC cards, the SIM, then only a unified, then that atomicity of data will give you the explanatory data. Then only you can give a true customer experience, because customer is one important stakeholder. I think I saw in one of the slides, probably by Rahul or by the BSES. So customer, if they don't know what is going on and why do I need it, and the cost of adoption is too high, he will say, I don't want it. And the whole purpose is to involve them and make them a major stakeholder. Cyber security is very important aspect in the entire this thing. I was reading an article, I think day before yesterday. In Ontario, someone broke into the grid using a small through a HVAC system. So that can be big, catastrophic in a country like us, where we are, whole our assets are on road, and probably some are overhead. Not even they are susceptible to everything. And being these critical assets, national assets rather, it can really be a big problem situation for us. Cybersecurity, with respect to meters, I think we should have a guideline only also for key rotation of keys in the TLS of the DLS, so that we are able to rotate the keys by which we get the data. So that will also bring in more security at the meter to the head-end system level. So I think that probably other points I'll cover in the next set of questions. Yeah.
Thanks. So, what I take away from you is the integrated view of data, which will not just help us make right decision, but also help in change management. That's an integral aspect, and cyber security becomes very, very critical as we move forward. Ananta, I'll come to you. As I said, you're an industry observer, policy influencer across the globe, specifically in India. So what's your take on the conversation that we have been hearing and the status of smart metering implementation in the country so far, the dream of 250 million where we are today? What do you really see as the progress so far and challenges faced so far?
Thank you, Deepthi, and I want to also thank Tata Power and ISGF for putting together this wonderful show and opportunity to actually be together and exchange ideas. Look, the proof of pudding is in eating, okay? I have been involved with over 50 utilities worldwide in the smart metering life cycle. How many utilities or how many countries across the world have rolled out 250 million meters, smart meters? I don't think anybody has done it. How many of them have rolled out network communication for 250? I don't know. Maybe the answer is no, right? How many of them have rolled out resource planning and IT planning and storage capabilities for 250 smart meters? How many of you know of any country or any region in the world that has rolled out and tested all these 250 smart meters. How many of you know of any country in the world that has done a business case, a cost-benefit analysis, not just for the smart metering program as a whole, but also for individual technologies as a whole? Because typically in smart metering, as you know, you do the overall wrapper business case so as to justify the investment, or in some cases to justify the investment for yourself if you don't have to report to a regulator, if it is mandated. But then you also do the business case for each and every kind of technology. And it's not a one-shoe-fits-all. India is a complex country. So the question is, we can sit here and talk till our faces turn blue and tell you every lesson learned. It reminds me of a talk I had with an 8-year-old girl, one of my friends' daughter, who calls me a friend as well. And she started Spanish lessons recently, and I asked her, what did you learn in your Spanish lessons so far? And she said, Anant uncle, you know what I learned? I learned that no also means no in Spanish too. Okay? So the thing is, lessons learned also can be discussed all day long, but lessons learned, each and every person absorbs that lesson based upon which stakeholder they are and what they know. It is very, very difficult to envision such a $250 million program without really thinking in terms of an India-specific context. And I would like to touch on 2 or 3 areas. I think our esteemed colleagues have touched on several areas. I'd like to touch on 2 or 3 areas. And one of the areas I myself experienced and encountered when I was doing it for a smaller scale. The first area is cost. How do you scale up? I think, sir, you mentioned about the cost issue, right? How do you scale up cost per endpoint per month? Well, guess what? As I was doing the business cases for different utilities across the United States at least, initially we started off with the NIC card, with all the functionality at initially about 100, 150 US dollars per endpoint. And then we ended up trimming it down to 70. Then competition came in, competitors began to compete. We bring it down to further below. But the problem was, not even that cost was too high in many cases. Some of the utilities couldn't afford it. So then I was part of at that time of an organization that actually launched SaaS, right? Software as a Service platform for smart metering data. And I started off trying to talk about 10 cents per endpoint a month, and people choked on that, right? So this is the area where India has a unique ability to learn from other countries and look at creatively, is there a SaaS platform available? But the problem is you can't probably do it for all 250 million in one shot. Maybe like the Texas portal and the Ontario portal that we have lessons learned. Maybe we'll do a Odisha portal and a West Bengal portal and a Karnataka portal, right? And with some of that summary data going up to headquarters to Delhi and a summary data, some level of summary going up there, right? But individual state portals, that way you can manage not only the cost per endpoint per month from a meter perspective, but also from that incremental increase in storage and IT costs and data costs. And storage is an amazing animal. It just data keeps on increasing, right? So the cost per endpoint a month has to be worked out for the India situation. And it may have to be worked out state by state situation or region by region situation. Second thing we touched on is communications. It's not a one-shoe-fits-all formula for communications as well, right? Because the topology of the region, the physical layout of the region, underground versus overhead, 30 stories, 20 stories, there's a lot of parameters that goes into calculation of the communication strategies. So what you may have to do is you may have to do a business case and come up with a complex communication scheme that will work in different parts of each of those regions, right? I will also talk about advanced applications just briefly, because when I did the initial business case for different utilities in the United States, this was like a big bill that is passed in Parliament or Congress. I put everything in there. I put demand response, load monitoring, transformer load monitoring, renewable integration, you name it, it was there. But the problem was that it was never practically feasible to accomplish all those goals. And the Public Utility Commission would come back, and in 2 cases I helped out the utilities, they would say, you know what, I don't see the value did not accrue. Why didn't it accrue? Well, guess what? The communications backbone was not able to handle. Even today, not trying to run down AMI providers here, but even today, I've got challenges with some of my customers who are not able to do distribution automation on the existing AMI data platform, communications platform, right? And so this is where, we are in an energy transformation, energy transition. Renewable penetration is increasing. We're talking about electric vehicles in the grid. We're talking about building to grid, vehicle to grid. We're talking about dynamic situations where a person, electric vehicle charging in one utility territory, going and charging in somewhere else. We're talking about blockchain. So we have a unique opportunity in this country, I believe, to look at AMI and AMI rollout in the context of the energy transition. And last but not the least, someone mentioned, I think my colleague here mentioned about standards. C1219, the meter itself, it's an open standard. C12, 22 and 24, the AMI communication from the meter to the head end is not an open standard. India has a tremendous bargaining chip here, $250 million meters at stake. Let's make sure it's an open communication platform. When the minute you open up the communication and demand that happen, guess what? All of a sudden, the whole paradigm changes, and open standards, open communication, you are not locked into one vendor. Right? So these are some of my observations. I think there is a great opportunity for us. I think the way India does 250 million meters, I think the whole world will be watching, and I know that in the end, we'll come out ahead. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anant, for sharing this. To your first part, where how many countries have done 250 million smart metering implementation, I would look back and say how many countries have issued biometric-based unique identity to over 1 billion people, no one other than India. How many countries have done vaccination of almost 1 billion population, digital certificate, complete traceability done, no country other than India. Which country has the kind of peer-to-peer payment network that we have, where I can even pay 2 rupees to a photocopier, using mobile channels, right, digital channels. No country other than India. And other thing that we've been discussing on pricing, I strongly believe that the scale that we operate, the moment we reach the inflection point, the prices will start to come down. I think we have not yet reached the inflection point. A very classic example, when Aadhaar started, I was fortunate to be part of the very founding team of Aadhaar. At that point, the enrollment kit used to cost about 2 lakh rupees when Aadhaar was just rolled out in 2010. But the moment enrollments picked up, within a year, the prices came down to 30,000-40,000 rupees, right? So I'm pretty hopeful. And if you just look at the telecom pricing, when my daughter was in Canada, she was paying $50 a month for her mobile bills. And I was like, I pay 500 rupees a month here for my mobile bill. So, I think the scale that we talk in our country, the prices are bound to come down. It's just that when we reach the inflection point and how soon that happens. And, finally, you talked about innovation that is required, right? I think we are a country of innovation. It's just that we need to come together. We need to recognize as policymakers, as solution providers, as system integrators. I think, we just go by the need and what we really say. I think that's a very good segue in the next round of questions that we have on innovation and what is a roadmap ahead that we look at in this entire smart metering space. So again, I'll start with you, Nilesh. What do you see really as the road ahead? What are the kind of innovations that you are expecting? Maybe if you can talk a little bit about, do you see a role of startups coming in, innovation coming in this sector? Elaborate a little bit on that, please.
Yeah, Dipti, a good question rather. By rolling out smart meter, we are collecting huge data, and how to monetize that data or how to use that data is a major challenge, and where the startups are really helping us. For example, in Mumbai, because in the rest of the places in India, smart meter main motivation is to reduce the AT&C losses, and by analyzing the data, you can identify the theft and reduce the theft and get the revenue out of it. But the city like Mumbai, where the losses are around 2-3%, where the major motivation is how the value can be added to the customer, how the information can be given to the customer. And customer is really demanding, at many places like Mumbai, where customer wants, more information about his consumption, and he wants more data. and he wanted, if you are spending money and you are replacing the meter, what exactly you are giving it to me? Even the regulator asked the same question. What is the business case of the smart meter if the losses are already low in the city? So these startup companies which are giving, the AI/ML solution, they are giving, the data analytics solution, and from that data, we are giving, right now we are rolled out, the solution like KYEC, know your electricity consumption every half an hour. Now we are giving them the data when you are on holiday, when you are consuming less, why you are consuming low, or when you are consuming high. We are giving them the energy management, or even, the input for the particular customer at its appliance level. Which appliances are energy efficient, which appliances are not. So there, these startups are playing a very important role. They are giving data analytics solution and working with them, not only for, the consumer end solutions, but also for, obviously, for the network, how asset management can be done, how the asset monitoring can be done, how the asset life extension can be done, and how that data can be used along with some sensors and all. So all these new startups started by the young, professionals, they are giving best of the inputs and high-end solution for the utilities to enrich themselves and mature themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, and I hope we are able to work together on getting some of the startups to do some more interesting stuff with you. I'll move to you, Praveen, next. I think smart metering is just one of the starting building blocks of overall modernization of DISCOMs and what new technology can be brought in. So if you can share some thoughts on that, and also what do we need to do today to make sure we are ready to handle the newer solution as service providers. What is it that you think is required to be ready for the future?
So as I said previously, smart meters is just a building block towards the smart grid. And when I say smart grid, it's also an intercombination of electricity, water and gas utilities. We see several applications which are gas-based, like heating and cooling, moving to electricity. We are seeing transport, which was largely fuel consumption, moving to electricity. So within the utility space also there is transition. And also that once you lay out these networks and you have the communication infrastructure, why restrict it to only one domain of a utility space when it can be utilized for multi-utility applications? So there are, like Nilesh also said, there are several use cases. You need to have a solution which provides you a hookup to all these new opportunities that come in. What you invest today is going to live with you for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So make sure the solutions are flexible, they can be reusable, they can be extendable, and that's where the maximum return from your investment would come about, and you would then happily live with the solution that you have deployed today because it will work for you even tomorrow.
Thanks. Manjit, I'll extend the same question to you. We discussed that we're looking at 15 minutes interval, we are capturing data as part of the smart metering system and things like that. So what do you see the future? Are we really doing something good out of that data, and what do you think is the potential of using that data for?
Thanks, Dipti. See, if I have to answer, the true benefit of AMI, I would derive when I get an SMS from the utility that this is the right time to charge your EV. Because this lower, you'll be charged at a lower tariff since the demand is at the lower side. So to achieve, that's just one of the use cases I have took up. So now that we are getting linear data, as good as, as low as 15 minutes data. Okay. So this much of data, what is that we are going to do with this data? And I think one of the important point that was raised that, with the storage. So, so we have to reach to a model where, we adopt to an pay-as-you-go infrastructure solution, which essentially is a blend of, moving towards cloud, which again I'm emphasizing, so that the capex part is lower on the utility, and as well as it is lighter on the implementer part also. That there's no upfront investment that they have to do. Second, the usage of this data is beyond, getting data from meter and making some reports and MDM sending to a billing system. It has to be seen it has to reach, like I said, it has to reach up to a point where, the grid, the load forecasting is able to predict, and finally its affects the utilities PPA. And the blending of various power sources by which, by accurately forecasting the demand and the available of all other renewable sources that can be brought in. So that can only happen if we make a proper analytics use case out of it. Now analytics is, I think it's a very common buzzword now. Everyone talks about analytics and people generally confuse it with the reporting that we have been doing traditionally over the years. So we are not talking about statistical data. Okay, so we are talking about data which is predicted data. Statistical is more of a historical data that we pull. Now we have to move towards prediction of the data. And that can only happen when we uniformly study this data and logically move into storages or blocks where it can be churned out and it can be made available for a machine learning kind of data. So that you are able to do an unsupervised data which can automatically predict based on your weather behavior, the surges, and the demands and the consumer growth. So basis this data, you have to have a clear roadmap of technology and the use cases that we built up. So I suggest that future RFPs, I would like to see that along with the AMI, they say that we will ask the bidder to implement 10 use cases of analytics. Let it be open. So that when the RFP evolves and the needs of the utility evolves, they can choose what and the bidder gets paid for that. So it becomes pay as to, because they will also need to know what exactly I want. I agree with what Mr. Anand said. So we are at a very unique cusp of a situation. We are doing something which is never done before. So having said that, each utility is at a different stage of evolution. So what probably a BSES would need, not to name any other utility will not need that. They are probably at a different level of that. So it can be open in terms of implementation of those use cases. They can be pure play, data science or machine learning kind of use cases, or it can be pure automation cases also. Some might need more automation because they have an ecosystem of many vendors in the utility available. Some may move towards a singular kind of system. So that is how I see it. So adoption of technologies which will sustain, and that is how we do, and which has to be aiming towards net zero goals for everyone. So we have to reduce those adoption and move towards, I will say, make a strategy towards moving towards a better, cleaner solution. That will help us to move.
Sure, thanks for that, Manjeet. Anant, you will be the last speaker on this topic before I open up for audience. So the way I would like to ask you this question is, Mr. Dubey talked at the beginning about, the cost of per meter per month is pretty high compared to the normal meters that we have. And is arresting commercial losses, is that the only benefit of doing smart meter, or is there something more from other global utilities that you look at it? What do you really think is the future roadmap for the entire smart metering AMI implementation and data getting generated? Is there some better monetization, prioritization, some better use that we can do from the entire infra that is getting created, physical as well as IT infra? Your thoughts on that, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I think two issues I want to talk about. See, in the US, when smart metering was embarked on, what was the primary goal, right? The first goal was eliminating meter reading, manual meter readers. And that problem has gotten worse because in the US, after the Great Resignation now, there is less and less people to do the work. India does not have that problem from what I see. So again, I go back to the business case, right? We talked about convergence, I think. Dipti, you didn't use the word convergence, you used another word, but I forget what you said, but the word is convergence. You have to look at the business case very thoroughly and see what specific benefits you are looking for, number one. And number two, what model the costs converge between the rollout as we see it, from where the utility is owning the assets, the communication assets, the meter assets, versus a software as a service or a hosted platform or a managed service as an option where the utility is not owning all the assets, right? I'm not saying that I favor one model over the other. What I'm saying is have an open mind and do the business case for those options. I also want to address the issue of supply chain because as I'm talking to my utility friends, their number one problem right now is supply chain. And let me share just a couple of thoughts on that because I've done work in that space. I was actually, when UPS went through and redesigned their entire supply chain from fully manual to fully automated, I was a lead architect for that project. This is 20 years ago, okay? This is something I did a detour from the utility industry and did that project for a personal reason. If you take, let's give an example of Walmart in the United States. Look at supply chain, right? In Walmart, today what happens is you walk to the aisle looking for cereal, okay? Only cereals. Kellogg, Post, every company has got cereals. Who owns that aisle? That aisle is owned by Walmart. But you know what? The suppliers supply the material to Walmart, the different aisles. They put the stock on there. Walmart has visibility into the supplier's production and manufacturing system and the supply chain. It is integrated. Same thing is happening with automobile. Until the moment I buy that box of cereal from that Walmart aisle, the original manufacturer of the cereal doesn't get paid. So I think utilities are in a unique position now across the world, in India as well, to challenge the vendors, to give them visibility into their manufacturing lots and their inputs. Same for Walmart formula, right? It's a unique opportunity, innovation opportunity here. Because as I'm talking to utility after utility after utility, supply chain is from transformers to breakers to meters, supply chain is a big problem. So I believe the supply chain problems have existed until now. What COVID did was it brought them out and exposed them. So there's the industry as a whole has a unique opportunity to fix that supply chain problem once and for all and learn from how supply chain is implemented in other industries. So we can also learn from other industries too, right? That is my thoughts on that.
Thanks for sharing that on it. And now I'll open up to the audience. If there are one or two questions, I see two hands raised in the first and second row. So Vikas, go ahead, please, with your question.
Check.
The worst possible security regime defined under DLMS protocol is security suite 0. All meters today are being ordered based on security suite 0. That means one master key for all the meters that are being put out there. How difficult is that to crack? Why are we not using the technology? There are security suites defined in DLMS of 1 and 2 not being used. There are security certificates available which the IT industry has been using for years and decades now. They are not being asked for. Just give you an example. We unfortunately had an incident about 2.5 years ago in one of the cities in India where on an evening 150,000 meters got disconnected at the same time. And for 3 hours, they did not come back online. Imagine 250 million meters being switched off at one time. And somebody will make that attempt. So please consider this about security. The second aspect Mr. Dubey raised about was proprietary communication solutions. And I, for one, raise my hand as I have been part of that industry which has been pushing for that, proprietary solutions. However, the good news is the world is looking at these RF solutions and standardizing. IEEE last year actually issued a standard on RF. And the better news is India has already adopted it as a BIS, but none of the tenders is referring to that. And I'm afraid, are we avoiding that standardization when we have actually adopted it? So we should look at that aspect as well. And the third comment I had was, Nilesh, you raised the subject about UHES, Unified Head-End System. Yes,
the very important perspective is that one HES should work irrespective of the device, irrespective of the protocol, irrespective of the communication. But this is only one side of the story. The other side of the story is, how does that HES also give you network optimization? It actively manages your network to make sure you get better out of the same network. And fortunately, there are solutions available. Happy to discuss with them with you.
Thanks,
Thank
Vikas. I take these as recommendations and not questions, really. So, unless anyone, quickly we can have a question and then I'll hand over to the chairperson for closing remarks.
All right, thank you. My name is Arup Ghosh. I've been in the distribution business for about 45 years now. I have been involved in probably the first large-scale commercial rollout at Delhi, the AMI rollout. Two questions and two rather skeptical questions. 25 crore smart meter, huge project. What I find is, the first question is, what I find is that all the technological challenges, all the challenges, technical challenges, integration challenges, operational challenges, design challenges and all of that is being pushed to the private sector. Infrastructure project of this magnitude, which involves people, which involves the population of the country, the entire population of the country, where you need to work with the government, where you need to work with the political hierarchy, where you need to work with all kinds of economic strata, there you push all the challenges to the private sector with a hands-off attitude by the DISCOM. I am skeptical that it might not be successful, it might fail. I would request the panel's comments on that. The second question, and that's perhaps the more important question, is the entire financial risk of this project is being again pushed to the private sector. I do not think the private sector is capable of taking up the financial challenges. The topic is AMI challenges for the DISCOMs. I'm skeptical that halfway through the project, those successful bidders who have got the project, who have won the project, they'll fail. They'll go bankrupt. As we have seen happening in some infrastructure projects elsewhere. It took a long time for us to fix the roadway, the road building initiative in this country. And that was a central government initiative, frankly speaking. But with different states, with different political interests in different states, people still winning elections based on free electricity and stuff like that. I'm very, very skeptical on that. So comments on the panel on that. Thank you.
So thanks for those questions. And on this stage, we only have one person who is not from private sector, Mr. Dubey. So sir, I'll pass on this question to you, and along with that, you can do your closing remarks also, please.
Wherever there is a technology, there is a sure sort situation that it will fail. So yeah, the comments that have come from the audience has been extremely valuable. The first thing that I want to make, yes, first coming to you, cyber security is an issue which needs to be handled by all the distribution company, and the government should be aware of it. Because it's not only a particular people not getting power for a particular moment, but it will be the grid stability and the national security which would come into play. So we can't let that thing just be brushed under the carpet and forget about it and the responsibility. And similarly, the communication strategy. To me, let me admit, and I don't have any regrets in admitting that, is that I was not aware that there are standards for the RF. And I will go back and see as to what my documents say about the cyber security in the RF. Because what we did in Madhya Pradesh was leaving the technology agnostic model and said that you have to have an HES for the standards, for the tables that we are designing for our common MDM, which we have designed in-house. So we didn't want to look at individual MDMs talking to the meters and then talking to the billing software solution. Coming back to you, onto the solution, onto the challenges that you were saying, that both the challenges in economic terms and in execution terms have been like are pushed on to the private sector, who is going to establish these and going to invest into it, while the distribution companies and the governments are taking a hands-off approach. I do agree completely with you that this kind of a scale of an program, and we have talked about multiple other programs of Government of India where you can never match any of those with the scale that anybody else would have ever undertaken in any part of the world. So given that kind of a scale that we have, it's essential that it has to be a comprehensive effort both from the side of the government as well as from the private entrepreneurs. And I am quite sure that the success would only come when both of us work together to achieve the intended target. But if you see from the perspective, you have rightly pointed out that some challenges are being pushed to the private sector and the government is not taking the responsibility. If I ask the counter question as to what, would you, in your eyes, like the distribution companies to take that as a challenge? Is it the payment security? It is guaranteed in the document, provided you achieve an SLA. Is it that institution or establishing of these meters into the premises of an individual is to be given by AMISP? Yes, but in conjunction with the distribution company, and distribution company cannot say that, yes, we are not going to be going along with you and knocking at the door of the consumer to tell him that, yes, here is an authorized person and coming and establishing it. As far as the taking care of other issues of communication strategy and making the people aware what are the benefits out of it, again, the distribution companies are going to be going with you, and it is not left to the individual AMISP provider to just go and explain the whole intention and the process of it. So there are challenges in this. These challenges would have to be taken partially by the distribution company and partially by AMISP. We have experimented, and I am proud to say that Madhya Pradesh was one of those states who have done completely on a capex model. Supposedly, I transfer the complete responsibility of making the payments to the distribution company. The challenge here is that you give us, and I am not saying you as you, but as a service provider, he comes up, he asks for a money, gets the money paid at the time of the installation, and then we are struggling for getting the information because the meters are not communicating. And until the communication happens, until we have a relay which can connect and disconnect, how is it that it is going to bring value to the distribution company or to the government? So that there is no clear-cut, watertight compartment whereby we say that it is no or yes, either way. We have to walk along hand in hand to reach to a situation whereby we not only inform the consumer, we not only get the data, but we also act upon it and try and minimize the, I would say, the pains that would come through this whole process. If I may be allowed to conclude, I'm very thankful to the expert panelists because there are a number of issues which personally, as a chairperson, I was not aware of. And I'm thankful to the audience also that I am personally benefited by this. But essentially, the points that have come out from most of the speakers has been that we not only have to look from the perspective of only incorporating a technology just because we have taken a task of saying that we will have a smart metering solution for all the consumers, but it is the other way around, that it is throwing up an opportunity for all of us to actually take care of multiple issues in one single go. It will reduce the theft if we are doing it properly. It will give us host of data which will help us doing the analysis on the information. It will help us in grid integration. It will help us in demand side management. It will help us in encouraging the people to use when the power is being put for a RSD or back down. So there are multiple solutions, and we should not be looking at it as one single objective that we are going to fulfill through this smart metering solution. And I'm grateful that all the speakers had brought out those points very well. And we are quite sure that this kind of interaction will not end at this juncture and will continue to have, because together we can and together we will. Thank you very much for doing this.
Fantastic discussions, deliberations, and interactions with the audience. My compliments to the chair, Mr. Sanjay Dubey, Deepti, and all the expert panelists here. I'll sum up that targets are ambitious, huge, challenges are many, and I'm sure when the stakeholders come together and we have a will, we will definitely find the way. And India has done it before, and this time too, India is going to do it again. So my gratitude, congratulations, and compliments to all the speakers here. And now invite the